Mangwanani mwalelepo vukenjani tekwa savana we Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening in the SADC region and beyond. As usual, you're joined by Aina Raiza Kweyo and Ashwin Berry.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. Today is a World Day of Remembrance for Road Traffic Victims, which takes place on the third Sunday in November every year as the appropriate acknowledgement of victims of road traffic crashes and their families. And here is more on that. Welcome back to Africa Good Morning. In our top stories, 40 million in aid relief for victims living on a knife edge. As the humanitarian crisis grows in Ethiopia's conflict-affected north, the UN announced on Monday that 40 million in funds have been made available to scale up emergency operations. The UN's top emergency relief official, Martin Griffiths, said that millions of people in northern Ethiopia are now living on a knife edge as the humanitarian crisis is growing deeper and wider. And neighboring regions, Amhara and Afar, have also been swept up in a deadly violence and terrible rights abuses. The UN Central Emergency Response Fund allocation will also support relief agency providing protection and other life-saving assistance to people affected there as well. This has increased humanitarian needs, OCHA noted, including for shelter, food, water, medicine and health services, dignity and hygiene kits for women and protection services. In addition to providing help to Ethiopia's conflict-affected northern region, communities will also receive support for an early response to drought in the south of the country, Oromia region, and in Somalia. Relief agencies will provide drinking water, including to prevent waterborne diseases and mitigate the risk of cholera outbreaks and help pastoral communities preserve their livestock.
In our second story, twin blasts in Uganda capital kill 2 and injure scores. 2 explosions in the center of Uganda's capital killed at least 2 people and set several cars on fire on Tuesday, local television reported. NTV Uganda said scores had been injured and there had been 2 blasts, one very close to Parliament and one near the Central Police Station. Parliament was being evacuated, the television station reported. An NTV Uganda reporter said he saw 2 bodies. The cause of the blasts was not immediately clear. First responders included Red Cross personnel who were using fire extinguishers to curb the fire on Parliamentary Avenue, the station said on Twitter. Now, last month, Islamic State made its first claim of responsibility for a blast in Uganda. That bomb, packed with shrapnel, killed a waitress at a restaurant. Also last month, Ugandan police said a suicide bomber had exploded on a bus, killing himself and injuring others.
Attacks in Burkina military outpost kills 32 and heightens pressure on government. Burkina Faso's government says at least 32 military police were killed on Sunday in the latest attack on security forces. Analysts say security in the West African country has worsened this year and the opposition has threatened to hold a protest if the situation does not improve. This dawn raid took place at a military outpost in a war-torn Swamp province on Sunday morning. While initial reports said 19 security force personnel and 1 civilian were killed, the government announced Monday night that the death toll has jumped to 32. Burkina Faso has been battling armed groups linked to Islamic State and Al-Qaeda, as well as local bandits since 2015. While 2020 saw a decline in violence, this year it has spiked again. Last year, negotiations took place between security forces and terror groups in the nearby town of Djibo. The sides reached a detente, but it now appears to have fallen apart.
In our next story, SADC forces seize 3 terrorist bases. Troops from member countries of the Southern African Development Community have claimed the destruction in late October of 3 terrorist bases in Macomia district in the northern Mozambican province of Cabo Delgado. The SAMIM troops also rescued 8 women and 5 children who were being held by the terrorists and are now in the care of the Mozambican authorities. They seized an unspecified amount of weaponry, including RPG-7 rocket launchers, 60mm mortars, PKM machine guns, and AK-47 assault rifles. SAMIM spokesperson Major Natalie Mfaladi said SAMIM forces support the government of Mozambique with the Rwanda security forces to create conditions necessary for a return to normal life in Cabo Delgado.
UNESCO celebrates 75th anniversary. The United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization on Friday commemorated its 75th anniversary at a time when its role is more critical than ever. Speaking at the commemoration held in Paris, President Hage Geingob said UNESCO was established to contribute to humanity's moral and intellectual solidarity, as well as building lasting peace through multilateralism. UNESCO was set up in 1945 but was unable to celebrate its 75th anniversary last year because of the pandemic, so it moved its commemoration to the 41st General Conference that began last week. Today, 75 years after the founding of UNESCO, we are faced with challenges that are transitional in nature. Therefore, multilateral coordination in pursuit of sustainable solutions and always in favor of peace and development is paramount, Hage Geingob said. Geingob further noted that Namibia hosted the 1991 World Press Freedom Day, which led to the Windhoek Declaration, promoting an independent and pluralistic media in pursuit of principle of press freedom. 30 years after the adoption of this landmark declaration, I am pleased to note that the current session of the 41st UNESCO General Conference will adopt the Windhoek 30+ Declaration on Information as Public Good.
Cameroonian troops kill 2 armed separatists in restive Anglophone region. Cameroon police said its forces killed 2 armed separatists during a shootout in the country's restive Anglophone region of Northwest on Monday. The shootout erupted on Monday morning in Bamenda, chief town of the region, after a patrol of soldiers and police spotted the armed separatists crisscrossing the city aboard a motorcycle. The separatist fighters were killed in the shootout and their guns seized. According to the police, the casualties of government forces are not known. Separatists have been clashing with government forces in Cameroon's Anglophone regions of Northwest and Southwest in a bid to create an independent nation they called Ambazonia.
Motorbike gunmen kill 15 people in Nigeria. Motorbike riding gunmen have shot dead at least 15 civilians and injured more others in the northwestern Nigeria state of Sokoto. The killings happened in the early hours of Monday. The state governor Aminu Tambuwal, who confirmed the attacks in a statement, said 13 of the victims were killed in the town of Ilela on the border with Niger. 2 others were killed in a separate attack in Goronyo, a town where armed men carried out a massive attack last month, killing more than 40 people at a market. Reports indicated many residents have fled their homes following the latest attacks. The region is grappling with a wave of killing and kidnapping for ransom by armed gangs, which continues despite the deployment of thousands of security forces. Over the weekend, militants affiliated to the Islamic State group killed several members of the Nigerian security forces, including an army general in an ambush in Borno State.
In our next story, Egypt floods kill 3, put 500 in hospital with scorpion stings. Heavy rain and flooding in southern Egypt has left 3 people dead and more than 500 others hospitalized from scorpion stings, state-run media reported. Downpours, hail and thunder in the province of Aswan over the weekend forced local authorities to suspend school classes on Sunday. Aswan Governor Major General Ashraf Atiya said the storms forced scorpions from their hiding places into many houses across the province, Atiya added. He said at least 503 people were hospitalized after suffering scorpion stings, but all of them were discharged after they were given anti-venom doses. No deaths were reported from the scorpion stings.
19 billion Namibian dollars spent on war veterans since 2010. Namibia has a total of 30,045 war veterans and 6,091 children of veterans between 8 and 18 registered with the Ministry of Veterans, on whom a total of 19 billion Namibian dollars was spent between 2010 and September this year. These were confirmed by the Minister of Defense and Veterans Affairs, Frans Kapofi, in Parliament last week. A total of 32.3 million Namibian dollars was derived from fishing quotas and was paid to the Veterans Fund between 2014 and 2019 to pay for veterans projects. So far, 2.4 billion Namibian dollars alone has been spent on the monthly financial allowance for 18,663 veterans, ranging between 2,500 and 5,500 Namibian dollars. In addition to this, 2 billion Namibian dollars was spent on the funding for individual projects of 11,057 veterans, while 1.6 billion Namibian dollars was spent on the improvement grants of veterans who suffered serious injuries during the liberation struggle. In addition, 9.7 billion Namibian dollars was spent on programs benefiting veterans for Namibia's liberation struggle, while some are still waiting for their payouts or project funding. All 30,045 veterans have received the lump sum payment of 50,000 or 20,000 Namibian dollars, while to a date total of 1,008 of the qualifying dependents have benefited from education and training grants for tertiary studies. Kapofi added that so far 21,526 veterans have applied for fundings for income generation projects, of which only 10,448 were funded, while a total of 61 veterans died while waiting for funding for their projects.
Now, the last of our top stories comes from Mozambique, as illegally exported timber recovered. The Mozambican authorities have recovered the remaining 7 containers out of a total of 76, which had been illegally exported to China, an official source announced on Monday. The 7 containers recovered are the last of a batch of 76 exported illegally in December 2020 via the port of Pemba in Cabo Delgado province, and 9 defendants have been charged with involvement in the case. The public prosecutor has said it will speed up the process of selling the wood to prevent it from losing its commercial value. Several national and international reports have indicated that Mozambique is the scene of environmental crimes, mainly illegal logging, and warning of the consequences of high levels of deforestation. All right. Those have been our top stories. After the break, we're going to be putting a spotlight on one of the Namibia Business Hall of Fame inductees, Ilka Platt. Stick around.
You can be part of this. Stand a chance to win exclusive double tickets for you and a friend to attend the Hunters Chill finale. WhatsApp a picture of you and your friend chilling with your favorite Hunters to 084 000 9820. Hunters refreshes like nothing on earth. Not for persons under the age of 18. T's and C's apply.
Now, former TV and radio personality Ilka Plath's migration into private business is paying off. Testimony to this was when she recently was inducted into the Namibian Business Hall of Fame as a 2021 laureate and received her accolade last week, Thursday, right here in Windhoek. The Poya Media founder spared a minute to share her joy with Africa Good Morning, and this is what she had to say.
Hi, my name is Ilka Plath, and I'm the founder of Poya Media, which is a public relations communications agency. We have been in existence for the past 4 years, and last week we were inducted into the Namibian Business Hall of Fame as the emerging entrepreneur. A month and a half prior, we acknowledged the certificate as the African Women Leader, which took place in India. With all of these accolades, these certificates, the acknowledgement, that's exactly what it remains. However, whatever happens prior, the journey to that, the work, the overtime, the setbacks, the challenges, that's what really makes an entrepreneur, and these accolades all worth it. I think there are so many untold stories about the things that we go through before being seen with a poster or a certificate or an award. And it's those stories that are more powerful than the title itself. Titles are great, but I think many times in our day and age, we're chasing titles in order to show something. With the acknowledgement, I appreciate the family support, friendship support, those that have supported our business over the past 4 years, our clients, those that have recommended other people to us to serve and to keep us in business. During a pandemic, it's been very, very difficult. We had to change our model. There are so many SMEs that we try to cater for, but when COVID started, we could see we could see some holes in our own home, which we had to start patching up and reevaluate and reanalyze. Is our business model strong enough to keep us going, to pay our bills at the end of every month? With every entrepreneur, it's really important to stay focused and grounded and remain on a path to provide a solution. You should always be a need and not a want in any industry. I think with many companies that have closed doors, they realize that many people can live without them. And as an entrepreneur, it's really important to establish your brand to say that you cannot live without the service. You need us to showcase what you are about. We have dedicated our services to small, medium enterprises. We had to twitch it up a bit and, incorporate some corporate clients just to be more maintainable for us in order to stay in business. With such awards, we are honored because it's these awards that you can put on your accolades and also get new clients on board. It can be testimony that the work that we have done has been recognized, but not only that, recognized so that we are delivering professional work when it comes to public relations communications. This whole journey has just been a whole faith test, a test in faith, just how much we depend on our Heavenly Father up there. You will have some high moments, you will have some low moments, not some, many low moments. And when you will have some low moments, not some, many low moments. And when you do hit rock bottom, it's those strategies as an entrepreneur. You should have plan A, plan B, plan C, so many different plans available at your disposal so that you can still be in business and still be relevant. For any setbacks that any entrepreneur goes through, it's important just to remain mentally sound. The biggest game changer for any entrepreneur is this over here. Once your mindset is there, everything else will be great. Self-motivation is key at the end of the day. So with the recognition that we recently accomplished, it's a great pat on our back, but it's not the end. It's something that allows us not to stay stagnated, and every day is only as good as your last. So it's on to the next, not for recognition, but to allow us to really showcase what we are made of, and to show other entrepreneurs that it is possible to reach the greatest heights that you can. We just got started, and we would like to thank everyone once again for your support. And watch the media for more details. And thank you very much to NMH for always promoting success stories, promoting the SMEs in your local papers, and allowing them to get new clients to stay in business and eventually to feed their families. Until then, it's God bless.
Strike it gold and win 5,000 Namibian dollars in cash with Neo Paints. Simply buy Neo Paints products from the selected range and stand a chance to get one of 12 mystery buckets filled with gold paint. All 12 winners will each get 3 extra paint buckets equal to their purchase. One to replace the gold paint, the second to use on your project, and the third to give to a charity of their choice. One winner can score another 10,000 Namibian dollars by showing us your creative use of the golden paint. The best project wins the cash. Offer is valid from 27 September to 18 December at your favorite hardware store nationwide. Visit us at neopaints.com for more competition details and follow us on Facebook for weekly competition updates. Neo Paints, a coat of excellence.
A fabric mask acts as a barrier to prevent the spread of the virus. It must be used correctly and always combined with other measures to protect yourself and everyone else. When wearing a fabric mask, clean your hands before putting it on. Inspect the mask and do not use it if it is damaged or dirty. Cover your mouth, nose and chin. Adjust the mask to your face, leaving no gaps on the sides. Avoid touching the mask while wearing it. Change your mask once it gets dirty or wet. To take off the mask, clean your hands first. Remove it by the straps behind the head or ears without touching the front of the mask. As you remove the mask, pull it away from your face. Clean your hands after taking off any mask. If you need to reuse a fabric mask, store it in a clean, resealable bag. Hold the mask at the elastic ends when removing it from the bag and make sure it is not dirty or wet before using it again. Wash fabric masks in soap or detergent, preferably with hot water, at least once a day. Make sure you have your own mask and do not share it with others. When wearing a mask, make sure you know how to put it on, use it, remove it, and discard it or wash it correctly. Remember that a mask alone cannot protect you. When wearing a mask, continue to adopt other measures to prevent the spread of the virus. Stay at least 1 meter away from others. Clean your hands frequently and thoroughly, and avoid touching your face and mask. Stay safe, and let's all prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Welcome back to Africa. Good morning. It's time for us to cross over to the real Africa, where Master Mike Sichila has the story on the ground. Good morning, Master Mike. How are you?
Africa, good morning. I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
We are fantastic. 6 Zambian companies are among several businesses from across the globe that are participating at this year's Inter-Africa Trade Fair being held in Durban, South Africa. Please tell us more.
Yes, thank you very much. As you all know, President Hakainde Hichilema gave a keynote speech during this year's Inter-Africa Trade Summit taking place in Durban, South Africa. So amongst the 6 countries that are representing Zambia at the summit include, they are interested into energy, agriculture, telecoms, as well as manufacturing. We can now also listen to the video where President Hakainde Hichilema pointed out the need for African countries to trade more amongst themselves before considering other partners in the global community.
All right, Mike, let's just get straight into the second story. Hopefully we can load your video if we don't manage to trust what you have given us. All right, in our next story, the rate of criminal activities is on the rise in the capital city, Lusaka, with the latest case of 4 youths who attacked and raped a woman yesterday.
Yes, there's a public perception, a number of members in Zambia who are saying the rate of criminal activities is because there were people who are removed from public stations, bars, and markets, and these people, since they were removed from their source of income, they are now resorted into getting into houses to commit acts of criminality. But when we look at the statistics that were given by the Zambia police, a total of 14,569 criminal cases were recorded by the Zambia police across the country in 2021, meaning this year. Then this has jumped by about 450 cases. That were 450 cases higher, because in 2020 the police recorded 14,119 criminal cases. So indeed, criminal cases are on the increase. But the good part is that the Zambia Police Service is making sure that these people who are behind these criminal activities are arrested and brought to book in order to reduce criminal activities. Because as you know, criminal activities will affect foreign direct investment into the country. And the police are actually on top of things to make sure that these people are brought to book.
All right, Mike, we're just going to swing back to your first story. If you could go ahead and reintroduce that video.
Okay, like I did say that President Hakainde Hichilema, when he attended the summit taking place in South Africa, he did indicate that there is need for African countries to trade more amongst themselves before crossing borders. We can now listen to the video and hear what President Hakainde Hichilema told other African heads of states.
It will be difficult to sustain the free trade area. Benefits must be seen by our people in the individual countries. Trade is an important tool for economic growth in our nations as a prerequisite for development in our countries, on our continent, as I've said. It is a tool that will create wealth and lift many of our citizens out of poverty on a continent as rich as ours. Zambia is committed to enhancing intra-Africa trade, and this is evidenced by the presence of the political leaders, government leaders here today, and our business community. Your Excellencies, there is enormous potential for trade and investment amongst us Africans, before we think of other continents.
All right,
so there you are,
Mike.
the president has.
Yes, continue,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes, I'm saying that there you heard it clear from the president saying it is important for African leaders to to promote trade amongst themselves before going to other communities in terms of foreign trade. So the message is resonating to the UPND manifesto of promoting entrepreneurship amongst young people, and so that these young people can begin to become big entrepreneurs in Africa.
Okay.
All right, lastly, Mike, please tell us about the match between Tunisia and Zambia that was played last evening. Briefly, please.
Yes, on Monday this week, I did indicate that Zambia, if they have to progress to the quarterfinals of the playoffs of the World Cup 2022, they needed to beat Tunisia by at least 3-0. But the opposite happened. Zambia lost that match 3-1, and leaving the group at 7 points from 6 matches, meaning we're not going to go to any playoffs, and we're out of the World Cup 2022 qualifiers.
Sorry about that, Mike. To be fair, that's a very nice football kit. Thank you very much for bringing us the news from Zambia.
Thank you very much, Africa. Good morning. Enjoy the rest of the week.
We certainly will do our best. Listen, dress for success, but also dress for failure, Moss. All right, weather up next. Now in South Africa, it's been almost 2 weeks since the local government elections on the 1st of November, and many councils are still in complex coalition negotiations. To give us this story and expand on more happening in South Africa, please welcome the ever so reliable Ari Hochad. All right, we seem to be having issues connecting to Ari Hochad, but the show must go on. Right now, we're going to dive straight into your economic news stories. In our first story, 14 tons of gold rubies smuggled from Mozambique this year. 14 tons of gold rubies and other precious minerals have been smuggled out of Mozambique so far this year, a senior official said on Monday. Mozambique sits atop some of the world's richest deposits of gemstones, often extracted by small-scale miners, who don't have access to formal markets. Gold, rubies, garnets, and tantalite used to create surgical steel have been smuggled out of northern and central Mozambique, said Fernando Maquene, a senior official in Mineral Resources Ministry. Cabo Delgado province, the most affected by the insurgency, is home to the Monte Puez ruby mine, which currently supplies more than half of the global market for new rubies.
Less Namibia in a name brewery's barrel. After more than a century as an iconic company in which Namibians had the biggest say, the majority of the share in Namibian brewery is destined for foreign hands. If regulatory authorities and stakeholders agree, Heineken NV will acquire 50.1% of OL shares in NBL Investment Holdings in a multi-billion-dollar transaction. The Dutch beer giant already owns 49.99% of the NBLIH. If approved, Heineken will become a sole shareholder of NBLIH, which owns 59.4% of NEM Breweries shares on the Namibian Stock Exchange. NEM Breweries currently market valuation is around 400 million euros or about 7 billion Namibian dollars. The news yesterday morning boosted NEM Breweries share price of 34.62 to 42 a shot. Today is bittersweet, said NBL Chairman Executive of ONL 7 team in a video message to NEMBRU's 784 employees. NBL has gone to the great lengths and put in all efforts to grow exports, but it simply does not have the muscle power to truly take Windhoek and other brands to the world as they deserve to be, he said. No job losses are envisaged at this stage, NBL spokesperson Patricia Huskema told the Namibian Sun. About 40.6% of NEM Brewery shares are currently in the hands of 1,442 public shareholders. According to NBL's 2021 Integrated Annual Report, this group consists of 1,274 individuals, 106 nominated companies, 33 corporate bodies, and 30 trusts.
In our next story, South African women are retiring with less income than men. South African women are retiring with less income than men, with the average difference in retirement income between men and women being about 26%, according to Alexander Forbes' 2021 Member Insights. Head of Research, Best Practice and Academy at Alexander Forbes, Vicky Lange, said the starting pension for men was 35% of their final salary, while it was only 26% for women. The gender pension gap is an extension of the gender income gap due to the close relationship between employment patterns and resulting pensions. The report concluded that while there is no single cause of a gender pension gap, it results from a broad range of influences. This is the most extensive membership sample of all retirement fund surveys in South Africa. All right, it's the middle of the month. You might want to know what your money is worth on the international market. Have a look at our economic indicators. Now, starting with the complex coalition negotiations that have followed local government elections from the 1st of November, please welcome Adi Hogart to give us the news from South Africa.
Yes, a very good morning, Ashwin and everyone. Yes, it's challenging times actually in all the negotiations, the so-called trying to get coalitions formed. That's of course after the local government elections. That was the local government elections that happened the 1st of November in South Africa. So it's been a few weeks. Negotiations not going great, but the challenge is mostly in Johannesburg and Tshwane, big metropoles, where there is no agreement. So the EFF also walked away from talking with the ANC. They say no coalition with the ANC. They say they're arrogant and they terminate talks. So that is not good. There's only a few days left actually for them to get that in place. So the accusations was that it's all about positions, and so the parties need to talk to each other as well. Action SA there as well, they're very involved in the negotiations. So also the DA and all the parties. So hopefully they will find agreements. It's the 66 hung municipalities all over South Africa. So hopefully negotiations will go well in the next few days.
All right, South Africans are still finding it a challenge to travel abroad, as India is the latest country to exclude South Africa from the newest A category list.
It seems that the international countries do see South Africa still as a country at risk, and that was the statement made by India. They say they're not putting South Africa on the category A list. There was 99 countries that was put on that list. Namibia, Zimbabwe, and Botswana is on that list. South Africa not. They in the company of countries like the United Kingdom and Brazil and Singapore. That's also countries at risk at the moment. People can still travel. South Africans can still travel to India, but it makes it difficult. They need to have a 7-day quarantine if they want to go to India. India at the moment, it seems like COVID-19 is a bit more under control. Half the population at least got one vaccination according to reports. So at the moment, South Africans are a country at risk, not good for tourism as well.
Indeed. Now, South African rail is currently underused by 70%, and there are negotiations that private operators may use Transnet's rail network to ease pressure on national roads. Please get into this.
Indeed, there's massive pressure on the road system because there's high volume of vehicles with high tonnage that's traveling on the N1 and N2. I traveled that quite recently. Lots of vehicles, lots of lorries on that road. There's only 30% access at the moment used by the rail system, according to reports. So it's important to put that up. And there is word that there will be access to private sector to have access to the railroad system as of the end of 2022. At the moment, 185 million tons are moved by railroads in South Africa, but the capacity can be moved up to as high as 600 million tons annually. So hopefully the private sector can get involved, and Transnet will be able to allow third parties access to the railroad system.
Former President F.W. de Klerk, who passed away on the 11th of November, will be cremated on Sunday, and the state security is on alert as there are threats of disruption. Please tell us more.
Yes, former President F.W. de Klerk passed away last Thursday, aged 85. So there's two schools of thoughts. There's obviously the reality is that he was the president of South Africa in still apartheid times. So there was threat that there will be disruptions at his funeral. It's not known what time it will be on Sunday. What is maybe significant to remember is that he became president in September 1989. Just 1 year later, he unbanned the ANC, SA Communist Party, and the PAC. That was quite significant. And then a year later, he released former President Nelson Mandela unconditionally. So that was quite significant what he did just a few years after he became president. But the funeral, the cremation will be on Sunday.
All right, now in our feel-good story, Agricultural Writers of South Africa announced Leroux Group as this year's Farmer of the Year. Please get into this.
It's not easy to farm these days, but it's great to see we've got a very farming community or farming group that's also looking after their people. I think that was important to notice for the people that decided who's the winner. They farm in table grapes, prunes, and nectarines. They're the biggest single table grape unit in the southern hemisphere, and they export 3.2 million cartons of these different products annually. But I think what made them win, what I like, what I think is the feel-good story, is that they've got 6,200 workers, employees, but they also do have a trust. And that trust, the workers is in that trust, and they own 32% of the one farm, the Broodkraal farm, as well. So the farm workers, do have equity in the business. So that's nice it's a nice story. That's the news from South Africa. Hope you have a great day, and blessings from Cape Town.
Blessings received indeed. Thank you very much, Ari, for bringing us the news from South Africa. After the break, your sports news updates. Welcome back to Africa. Good morning. As promised, it's time for us to get into your sports news updates. Now, if you live in South Africa, Zimbabwe, or Namibia, 2027 is your year, because South Africa to host 2027 50-over Cricket World Cup for the first time since 2003. The Cricket World Cup will return to South Africa for the first time since 2003, when the 50-over showpiece comes around again in 2027. Like the 2003 edition that was won by Australia, and where the hosts bombed out in the first round, the tournament will be co-hosted by South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Namibia. Kenya was the other co-host in 2003, when they famously reached the semi-finals. The announcement was made on the International Cricket Council's Twitter feed, and that means South Africa will be hosting its first senior ICC tournament since the 2009 Champions Trophy that was also won by Australia. Cricket South Africa's acting chief executive officer, Poletsi Moseki, said it was important for the World Cup to come to Africa for the growth of the game. It is extremely important for the tournament, and cricket is probably one of the fastest growing games in the continent, and the tournament will help in this regard.
Djokovic opens a finals bid with winner over Ruud. Novak Djokovic began his attempt to equal Roger Federer's record number of ATP finals triumph with the straight sets winner over Casper Ruud on Monday. World number one Djokovic is looking to complete a remarkable year with a sixth final title after only just missing out on claiming all 4 Grand Slams in a single season. He sits top of the green group ahead of Andrei Rublev, who beats Stefano Tsitsipas in straight sets and is looking to cap a memorable season that sees him close as the top-ranked player of the record 7th time. Djokovic attracted wild applause from the Turin crowd when he insisted on speaking in Italian for his on-court interview after the match, before which he was honored once again for being the world's top player. It is a great feeling being back here in Italy. Thanks for all your support over the years. Italy is like a second home for me, Djokovic said.
All right, a man of the people. Now, in the next story, the gloves are truly off between Mercedes and Red Bull. Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen shook hands after the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, but the gloves are now well and truly off between Formula One rivals Mercedes and Red Bull as the championship enters the final straight. As Hamilton celebrated his 101st win and possibly the greatest race of his Formula One career to revive his hopes of a record 8th world title, Mercedes team boss Toto Wolff vented his feelings. His sense of injustice was palpable, as well as the feeling that Mercedes were fighting forces greater than Red Bull, even as Hamilton closed the gap to Verstappen to 14 points with 3 races remaining. On the Red Bull side, there was also a pervading sense of suspicion. Red Bull boss Christian Horner said the straight line speed of the Mercedes was eye-popping and something his team wanted to understand.
The Springboks' comprehensive 30-15 win over Scotland, coupled with All Blacks going down to Ireland, meant the Boks leapfrogged the New Zealanders and took back the #1 ranking they lost in a rugby championship. But it may well only be temporary if All Blacks beat France and the Boks lose to England this weekend. If that happens, the roles could be reserved once more. Either way, the Boks will be looking for victory to see them end the year at #1 spot in the world ranking. New Zealand went into the weekend needing 4 tries to become the first team to score 100 tries in the calendar year, but they fell too short of their goal, while Cody Taylor and the prolific Will Jordan touching down, with South Africa gaining half a rating point for their victory and the All Blacks losing 1.34 points as a result of their second defeat in Dublin. In as many games, the Springboks now hold a 1.8-point lead at the top. In honesty, the world rankings are a nice bragging point, but means little else in the wider scope of things, especially 2 years out of the World Cup. The same time before the 2019 World Cup, South Africa ranked 6th, for instance.
All right, that brings us to the end of our sports news updates. After the break, today's headlines. Africa Good Morning has been streaming live from 7 a.m., giving you the news and current affairs from the SADC region and beyond. Now, if you perhaps missed our top stories at the top of the hour, or if you need a recap, worry not, here are some of the headlines. $40 million in aid relief for victims living on a knife edge. Twin blasts in Uganda capital kill 2, injure scores. Attack in Burkina military outpost kills 32, heightens pressure on government. SADC forces seize 3 terrorist bases. 14 tons of gold rubies smuggled from Mozambique this year. And in sport, South Africa to host 2027 50-over Cricket World Cup for the first time since 2003. Those have been our stories.
We thank you very much for joining us on a wholesome Wednesday edition of Africa Good Morning. Please remember to catch all NMH shows on One Up 2. We do welcome your remarks regarding our show. You can email them to us. Our email is agm_2cents@nmh.com.na. Alternatively, you can post comments on our Twitter and Facebook pages. That's at Africa Good Morning. Please do get vaccinated, avoid unnecessary public gatherings, and remember, we are still in the middle of a pandemic. And on that note, is all our love, all our light.
Until tomorrow, Swera Jaganaka.